My name's Amanda Anderson. I'm a high school teacher at Woodruff High School, and I teach English. I teach language to new Canadians. So I'm teaching beginner level English, and I'm teaching online fashion as well. So I've got a little mix of everything. I read through your discussion board postings last night, and hopefully I can give you some resources that are online to help you with your classes when you're on practicum in second semester. In the last session, I talked about Edpuzzle and hyperdocs. One of the things that I didn't get to talk about in hyperdocs is how to actually do them. So while people are getting logged in, I'm going to go into that hyperdoc now and show you how to do that. Just trying to work out the chat settings. I think that since no one is actually physically in the Hangout and you're just viewing me on YouTube, we're not going to be able to chat over Google Hangouts. But that doesn't mean that we can't have feedback. So take this as a 30-minute sharing session from me to you. And if you have follow-up questions, I'm not going away anytime soon. So just keep them somewhere safe. You can comment at the bottom of the video, and I can address your comments one by one, or we could talk about it when we meet up, or we could talk about it in Google Classroom. There's lots of ways we can keep this conversation going. It's just the beginning. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen with you right now. All right, through movie magic, I'm going to share my screen with you and we can look at this hyperdoc. So what I've done to create this hyperdoc is I've made, I'm just going to make a copy of this so I can play around with it. I've made a table in a doc. So pretty simple. That's why there's all these little boxes. I've just gone to table, and I have 15 students in my class. So I went 5 by 3 and inserted that table in there. And then once I had a table, I put their pictures in. So I'm just going to double check. Yep, we still have sound. That's perfect. I took their picture and put a picture in each spot. And then what I did was I made the picture a link. So in Google Docs, you can make anything a link you want. A picture, text, it just needs to be something concrete. And so let's say I wanted to make this Canva word a link. So here's Canva. I've highlighted the word. And this little paperclip linky symbol is where I can put the link. So let's say I wanted to link it actually to Canva. Canva is the software that I used to get my students to make infographics. So if I wanted to make it link to Canva, I would copy my Canva link. I would paste it right in here. So then now when I click on Canva, this little link pops up at the bottom and it takes me to Canva in a new tab. So the glory of HyperDocs is you can make anything interactive. Something that would seem static is now alive. Students can have a one-pager and they can navigate it. They can look at everybody's work. They can look at one person's work. It really helps the collaboration in the class because they know that anyone could be looking at their work at any time, so they're going to try their best. I mentioned this in the last session, but it also helps students to be creative because they are basically doing graphic design in this platform. And I'll show you. There are lots of different things you can do. So you can see some of the things that I've made: logos, I've done charts, I've done infographics, I've done other graphics. It's very user friendly. It's free and it's linked to Google, and you can download it from anywhere. So what I did was I gave students, since this is the first time any of my students have worked with Canva, I wanted it to be something that was pretty self-explanatory. And I gave them the template and then they deleted out the information. So if I wanted to change this as the baby shower, I can delete the picture and put a new picture, and I could put balloons for a birthday party. I could change this text. I could change the color of the box. If I click on it, I can change it to purple. I can do whatever I want. I can upload a picture. So there's some of the pictures that I have here. I could upload straight from Facebook. So it's pretty user-friendly, and it's interesting for students to navigate with some help. They had fun playing around with it. An example of this was I was showing them how to delete text and replace it with new text. And some of my students had already figured out how to change the background color, and they love soccer, so they changed it to grass because they were going to do a soccer theme. And that wasn't something I told them to do. That was just something that they chose to do, and it was nice to see that, especially from students who don't necessarily show me that creativity in class. All right, another thing I want to show you while we are in Google Docs, I noticed that there's a chunk of people who are in guidance or special education, and I wanted to show Google Read and Write. Read and Write is a tool that students in our board use to help them with their work. And Google Read and Write is something that the board has a license for. So you might see students in your class using Google Read and Write to help them. And how do you get Google Read and Write, you might ask. If you just type it in the Omnibox, you can get it on the web store. Did in here, this one here. So in my case, it's already added to Chrome. And you can see here, it's got lots of different options. And it's very helpful for English language learners because it's got a lot of options that might support them. Like, for example, in this image here, you see that it's and then the student can look for definitions of the word. It could also give them a picture dictionary, so they don't have to type it in Google. They have the word earth, and they can see here, it can mean earth like this, or it can mean earth like dirt. So if the dictionary isn't accessible to them, if it's too challenging, then the picture dictionary could work as well. So just going to try and grab my Read and Write. With students' computers, it pops up right at the top with a little puzzle piece. And on teacher computers, sometimes it annoys me, so I turn it off because I don't need those supports. But I encourage all of my students to have Google Read and Write on. So I'm going to upload a picture or a video of Google Read and Write in action. After all the sessions, I'm going to be compiling So if you want to take a look at it again, you can do that on your own time. And then when we come back in February, we can talk about what's going to work for you. One of the things that I wanted to mention was how I manage this technology in my classroom. No matter what class I'm in, I'm teaching English, I'm teaching history, fashion, I'm always using some form of technology with my students. It's an area of interest for me, but it's also an area of interest for my students. So I try and do that. I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a minute. Let's turn the camera back on. I'm still here. I wanted to talk about station rotation. When I was reading the discussion post, some people were mentioning they wanted to know how to make it work. So let me just tell you about my example, and then if maybe it might give you some ideas. So at my school, we have 6 classes that are just like mine. New Canadians that are trying to learn English as fast as possible so they can continue with the courses that they need to get their diploma. So when they come, they generally don't speak any English at all. We start out at the kindergarten level and we rush to get them through to grade 5 English as fast but as effectively as possible so they can start the grade 9 geography or the grade 10 history or the grade 9 science class that they need for their credits. And so we have 30 Chromebooks to divide amongst a program of like 90, and those 30 Chromebooks are actually for the whole school. So it's a competitive Chromebook process. But I have 5 Chromebooks on a daily basis that are dedicated to me. And I think some of the work you were doing in the blended learning resource modules talked about station rotation. So station rotation is when you have areas of your classroom where students are working on different things. So in my class, for example, if you popped in, you might see 5 students working with me at a pod of desks. And maybe we're working on grammar, maybe we're working on something that they didn't understand, like what text features are. I might be trying to do reading with them one-on-one. It could be a lot of things. But you would have one station maybe where teachers are working with the students. In the second station, you might have students who are working on a more independent task. So I might have students reading silently and answering questions to practice comprehension for their reading exam. Or I might have students practicing vocabulary and how to spell particular vocabulary words like teacher or school or things like that. And then there might be another section where students are interacting with the Chromebooks. So maybe they're working through an activity, or maybe they're making a video, or maybe they're participating in a listening exercise online. There's a lot of different options. But students would be working in little areas of the class, and then at some point during the class, we'd rotate. So a new group of students would come to me, a new group of students would go to the reading section, and a bunch of the rest of the students would go to the Chromebooks. And then we'd do it again. And then maybe again, depending on how many people you have in your class, 15. And since I have 5 Chromebooks, it generally ends up being 3 stations of 5. And then it's perfect. If you are working with a teacher, like I'm guessing you're probably going to be doing in your practicum, then it's even better because one of you could be at one station, one of you could be at another station, and then the last station could be independent. So it really gives you a chance to work one-on-one with students. It helps you gauge whether they're an effective communicator. It's hard to conference with students as much as you'd like, and that's one of the exit outcomes. So you really want to be able to make sure that your students can communicate effectively in all manners. So speaking and reading and writing. The other thing that it does is it helps students get used to other students in the class. So I randomize my groups. They don't get to always choose who they're working with every single day. And it allows students to work together that wouldn't work together on a daily basis. And it's an expectation of mine that every day you're going to be working with a different group of people, and you're not going to complain. You're just gonna do it. It is mostly Muslim as well. The boys and the girls don't tend to interact as much as they do within their groups. And the girls kind of sit on the edge of the class and the boys sit together in the middle. And so when we do things like station rotation and some of the other activities that I'm going to share with you, it really helps. In the last couple of minutes, I wanted to talk about Twitter. Twitter is a huge resource, and I would totally suggest going on Twitter if you haven't ventured into it already. In Canada, it's a huge networking site with professional development. So I'm just going to share my screen with you again. Off so you don't have this weird thing. I'm going to show you Twitter. Chances are you've heard of Twitter, but you haven't not have seen it for yourself. One of the things that I love about Twitter is it makes the teaching profession so attainable. Everyone in it is just a tweet away. So you can see right here, I've got one of my teacher gurus, the ones that I look up to, using Twitter with her actual students. So here's her students' hashtag. So she's got her school, she's got HPA, which stands for High Performance Athlete, and she's got 10. So I'm guessing that probably means grade 10. So this is her class's hashtag, and if I actually click on this hashtag, I can see any person who has used this hashtag in the past. And you can see that it's pretty much everyone from her class because she has a school and a class-based hashtag. And so if I wanted to catch up on stuff that she's done, it would be really easy for me to use this hashtag and do that. And you can see she's quite active on Twitter. We're all the way down here, and it's stuff that's still been in the last week or so. So I get ideas from teachers on Twitter by following people that I'm interested in. So here's a list of people that I'm following, and you can see the majority of it as education. I have a principal, I've got Team English. If you're an English teacher, this is an English hashtag that is pretty useful. It's all English stuff. And basically every subject has a hashtag. So if you're teaching kindergarten, and one of them is KinderChat. If you're teaching science, there's science hashtags. It's a way of people organizing information. You can see there's other teachers, colleagues, people that I have followed. I've got my school on here. I've got a social worker that works in my school. I also have celebrities. So I noticed there was some politics teachers in the house. A lot of politicians in Canada and America at least have Twitter accounts. I'm not sure if it's the same way in Spain, but this means that you can get a really cool look at a person's social media platform and what they want the world to see about them. So students can look at this and maybe look at the last 10 tweets of this politician and what do you think they believe in based off of those tweets? Or maybe they want to write to him. Maybe they want to tweet at him. If they want to tweet to Jagmeet, they can just their ideas here and it will go to him/somebody on his team. And if they want more information about this politician, for example, the link to his website is here and we can get even more information. So Twitter is a good tool for research, both as a teacher, learning about becoming a better teacher, seeing what other people are doing and collaborating together. But it's also a good tool for students, especially if those students are going to go into the world where their colleagues will be using Twitter as a professional hangout. So don't forget, if there's any questions you have about anything I've talked about in either of the sessions, please, please, please write it in a comment or make sure that your question gets to me on Google Classroom. I will do my best to answer every single one of your questions. And if you have an idea that you want to try, but you don't know how to do it or what program would be good to do it, I can probably help you out. So thank you so much for tuning in, for those of you who are in session 1 and session 2. And again, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties right off the start. But this is just the beginning, and I look forward to working with you for the rest of the semester and the semester after that. All right, have a good day.